Because I want to talk about that with Chris Low for reaction. He is chief economist at F.T.N. Financial. By the way, if you don't know already, Chris Low was one of the economists who spotted the housing collapse back in 2006, and he's also one of the first to warn the mortgage crisis was even bigger than just subprime alone. So, Chris, thanks so much for being with us. And I really want to just segue from what Mike was just talking about, because I think the savings rate, which we haven't talked a whole lot about, savings in America, that is going to have a huge impact on economic growth going forward, right?
Absolutely it is. And, what we saw today was evidence of that. There was this huge one-time payment of benefits to seniors, a transfer payment that was part of the Stimulus Act. And by boosting savings rather than showing up as part of consumption, it indicates that people are using it to pay down debt. They're not using it to go out and spend. And that's something that we've been seeing in the numbers, a trend towards that all year long.
So that means, Chris, that all this talk about leading to a sustainable recovery here in the U.S., that kind of puts a damper on that picture, does it not?
Absolutely it does. We at F.T.N. believe that we are headed to a recovery this year, that we will have positive GDP growth in the second half. But it's important to understand this is a recovery that is bought and paid for with fiscal stimulus. It is federal deficits that are driving GDP at the moment. Those deficits are something that's increasingly a problem with voters. The White House is worried that it's a threat in the midterm elections next year. And that means the stimulus is going to be withdrawn at some point. When it is, we have to see a transition to a consumer-carried recovery.
Because the reason why I ask all of this is that I was talking with Jack Welch yesterday. We did an interview with him and his wife, Susie Welch. And we were talking about, he's been very critical about President Obama's budget. And he says essentially the White House cannot get that top line growth of 4% with a budget deficit that they project. So in your view, Chris, is 4% sustainable? And if it's not, what are we really looking at here with the budget deficit?
No, I don't think 4% is anywhere close to realistic for the next 3 or 4 years anyway. It's not so much because the deficit is so big. It's because consumers can't borrow the way they did in the last business cycle. With house prices falling, you just can't get that home equity loan to support spending. So I think spending remains anemic for years going forward. That means receipts are going to be low. The deficit will be big.
Chris, always great to talk with you. Thanks so much. Chris Low, chief economist of F.T.N. Financial.